Hi, I'm Tom Irons. I'm a doctor here in Greenville, lived here for 33 years, and for the better part of 32 years, I've known the person who I have the privilege of interviewing today, Dr. Rick Croskery. Rick, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You know, I know a lot about you. We've enjoyed a lot of time together, and we can talk about some of that a little bit later, perhaps, and some of the work that we've done together to build bridges in the medical community, something that was not easy to do at the time, and still is not easy to do at times. But tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I did come to Greenville 32 years ago to do my residency at ECU School College of Medicine, which I guess is now Brody.
Brody, right.
But I came here from Ohio State University, The Ohio State, and with my wife Andrea, and came here expecting to do a 3-year fellowship and go on to do a cardiology fellowship somewhere else.
Right. Like
so many other people that I've known in this community, I came here and gravity pulled me in, and I've been here ever since. I joined Physicians East, which at that time was called Quadrangle Medical Specialists.
Right.
And at that time we had 7 doctors. We now have about 50. Right. We had 1 building. We now have about 7. We now employ about 500 people. But in those days, it was much smaller and more collegial. I became involved with several community groups and organizations shortly after being here and starting with that practice. I was introduced to the Rotary Club, right, where I've been a member for over 30 years and have been a past president. And I was introduced to United Way of Pitt County, where initially I got to be the guy who asked all the doctors for money.
I remember that very vividly. I remember my dad having commented to me that doctors were the hardest people to extract money from that he knew.
Well, yeah, there may have been, but apparently I either was a glutton for punishment or I did all right, because I kept doing that for years until I also got to do the professionals, which included the accountants and the chiropractors and the dentists and all that, and then became the campaign chair for the entire county, and went on to be the chairman of the board of United Way. And in that process got to know so many of the community leaders, the people in industry and the people in government here that have been important. And during my year as chairman, we also had a really important, what we call watershed event in Pitt County. We had Hurricane Floyd.
Yes.
And of course, that agency then was called upon to do so many things, to do so much relief effort. And although I won't take credit for doing it, I was part of that and got to see it and got to be part of all the phone trees that we had and all the relief from that.
As was I. That's a very vivid memory for me as well, Rick.
And so, you know, again, being part of a community that I've gotten to know the leaders and be involved with that sort of thing during an event like that, I think gives you experiences that you can draw on later. I became involved also with the Chamber of Commerce and was on their board for a number of years and was their chair a couple of years ago. In fact, during a time when we had some downtown problems and had to talk to the city about starting a task force about crime. So I've been involved in a lot of efforts through the years, in addition to being involved with the church and the Scouts.
Yeah, you're
and
Peace
things
Presbyterian, I believe, still.
That's right.
Yeah, you've been there a long time.
That's right. And
Scouts, and you sing.
Yeah,
I know that about you, and you play music too. But you've been in the choral society forever, you and Andrew.
We played music together. At Pinehurst a few years ago. But yeah, I was in the choral society for many years, and then have been the president of that organization. I think, you know, I guess I'm the kind of person who's always active in things, and I do wear a lot of hats. But I like to take my responsibilities seriously, but also with good humor. I think it keeps us all. That's what makes life go on.
It does indeed, Rick, and we've laughed together about a lot of things back in our days of trying to bring the medical communities together, the med school and the private community. We did a lot of laughing, and we wrote a song, I think, and performed it at some point locally about I can't remember the words, but I remember that you sat up half the night writing the thing.
That's right. Night. Well, we were together in the Medical Society, and that's probably another organization I should mention. I was the president of it one year, and you were president of it, I think, the next year. together.
Right.
I don't remember the order. I think that was the order. And
so
we went to many meetings together for a number of years, particularly to the North Carolina Medical Society. And the only reason I mention that is you and I both know when you go that, it's like going to a political meeting.
It is.
They have legislation, they have bills, they have committee meetings.
They have debate.
They have debate. They follow parliamentary procedure, and it really is a good education for any kind of work on political types of things, whether it's city council or running meetings for the Chamber of Commerce, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Rick, your campaign slogan is healthy growth for Greenville. What do you mean by that?
Well, I thought healthy was a good word to use since I'm a physician, and physicians don't do this kind of thing very often. There's an analogy I thought of after I'd adopted that slogan of, there's growth in the body that's not healthy. You can eat a lot of cheeseburgers and you can get big.
Yep.
But healthy growth is really getting the right nutrients at the right time in the right place and working them together, exercising and that sort of thing. That's sort of the analogy. But what it really means is getting all the parts together. The city government working with the entrepreneurs and the businesses and the citizens to plan far into the future and make a community that has a high quality of life that will bring in outside business. Just putting in more houses and getting more people to move in to have a higher tax base without really thinking critically about how to make those people have a good quality of life is not healthy growth. I'm for the healthy kind.
Right. So you're for the healthy kind. Well, we're certainly in concordance on that. I worry terribly about our having accessible parks and safe walkways, and the city's done a lot in the last few years to improve that. We've got a lot to be thankful, but we have a lot to do, and if we're going to grow and become what we say we are already.
Well, one of the things I'd like to point out is that we have walkway plans and horizon plans. We have plans that go back 10 and 15 and 20 years that we're in the process of implementing now, and they're good plans.
Yeah.
They were there before the people who are currently in council were there, and I think of people who are in council as being stewards of those plans and moving them forward and moving them to the next level. But there are things we're doing now that were planned a long time ago, and they're good things.
I like your use of the term stewardship. I believe any of us who are in public service or who take opportunities to serve the public have stewardship, must hold stewardship up as our highest ideal. Tell me about your own qualifications, and really you've just about done it.
Well, I think my professional qualification as a physician in Pitt County is, I think, very helpful. I've done a back of the envelope calculation and realized that I've had over 100,000 patient visits in my medical career here. I've seen and talked with people of all ages, people of all walks of life, socioeconomic, ethnic groups, from all parts of the county and the city, about their deepest problems, and I've gotten to know people and be able to connect with them. So understanding community and its needs on a personal basis is one thing. But I've also been, as I referenced before, a part of a group that's gone from a very modest size group to a very large group, and I've been part of that expansion. I've been a member of our board. I've been our managing partner at one time. I go to a monthly business meeting, and I don't pretend to be an accountant, but I can look at the balance sheet and I can help us make decisions about hiring and buying new equipment and vendors to work with and that sort of thing. So I think some of that translates into being able to be a good council person.
You got to know how to run a business. All of us do. I like to remind people that if you want to take care of poor people, which I like to do more than anything, you better know how to run a business, because if you don't have a revenue stream, it's all gone. You're not able to serve anybody. Why are you the best choice then for District 5?
Well, I think that probably the resume that I've laid out for you is the thing. In addition to having had those experiences and having worked with all those people through all those years and being familiar with the plans that they've made going far into the future, I think my personality sort of lends itself as well. I'm a pretty middle of the road person who can connect with people and collaborate with people, compromise when I have to, state my case when I have to. And I think all of those qualities, in addition to the resume I put forward to you, make me a good choice for council.
One of the issues that has bothered me over the last year, bothered me enough to make me more active this year's campaign than I have been last couple of years, has been the loss of civility in council meetings. I find it almost impossible to watch a meeting. Rick, comment on that if you would, please.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's becoming an expectation of government at all levels.
At all levels.
And basic courtesy and civility are important things, and I think we all have the capacity to be that way. Unfortunately, we've come into we have a culture that's a 24-hour news cycle that's populated by sound bites, and to get those gotcha moments one after another to keep the news lively, people are less civil to one another. I think people actually all have the capacity to be much more civil than they often are in public life these days.
I do too. I don't disrespect anyone who's in office now, and I would hope that I would be treated with the same respect with which I would treat them. But it is a tough environment to go into, and you've got the personality for it.
Thank you.
I think. And of course the reputation and personal integrity. If you could participate, let me ask you this: if you could participate in a debate with the other, with your opponents for District 5, what question would you want to be asked of the three of you?
I think that probably the best way to draw out the candidates to help you make a decision about who is going to be the person you want to be there would be asking a question, something about what's your long-term vision for the city, and how would you be able to help do that. And I would talk about things, and again I will reference the things we're already doing, like our greenways development. We have great plans in place for the 10th Street connector, the West Greenville development, our recreation and parks development uptown. But to be able to put it in the crystal ball and say in the future, how will it go forward from here? And I would say exciting things like changes at the town common and utilizing our riverfront to make it really a town common, a place where people commonly gather for fun and recreation. The bridge across to River Park North that people have talked about for years and years, I've supported for years. I'd love to see that kind of thing happen.
I love to walk over there. Carol and I love to get in the car on a crisp fall day and go over there and walk.
Oh, and to see we got bald eagles. We've got the Anhinga bird over there. That's the most amazing bird to look at.
He is. Dries his wings and his neck is like a snake's neck.
Yeah, you see it's but we've got things here that people don't know about, and just having that connector would be great.
And they could walk right over.
But you have to get the downtown. I'd love to see the downtown work its face towards being a promenade along First Street, where that's shops and restaurants and maybe entertainment with upstairs residences or offices, where it's not taking apart our town common in any way, but overlooking it and making that a fun place for people to gather, a fun, safe place in the summer evenings, and walk across to Sunday in the park, and maybe even have a public restroom there in the town common, that sort of thing.
That would certainly be nice.
I'd like to see our neighborhoods fill in. We've got a lot of developments, and of course in the last few years we've had some economic downturn, had trouble filling up our subdivisions that we've started. But to see them fill in before we go out to the next one, and when we do go out to the next one, make sure that the city and the county and the utilities planners are all together before it gets there, so that that there aren't roads that are built that then sit vacant for several years without proper maintenance and that sort of thing.
I certainly could not agree with you more. You've gotten a lot of support. I've heard a lot of good things said. What are other people saying about your campaign and your bid for this seat?
Well, I think.
Are you crazy? I think that was my first thought. I bet some people have said that.
I've heard that many more times than once, and I think mostly from patients and people who know me for years have been real supportive of it, said they feel like I would do a good job, and to not be scared of the fact that it's going to take some time and that sort of thing. There has been some concern that I wouldn't be able to be available to see my patients in the office as much and that sort of thing. I mean, we take that type of thing seriously. We old primary care doctors.
We do.
And but I can tell you my great mentors and greatest examples of public service like this are the two other physicians who have been on city council in the past, Doctors Earl Trevathan and Ed Clement. And both of them have been in my corner and assured me of all of their support and all of their advice. And I really appreciate having mentors like that.
Two great statesmen.
Yes, I agree.
And lovely human beings as well. We're so fortunate to have them around still.
But it's been supportive, and I guess because I've, just know a lot of people all over the place just because of my profession.
Of your work and your volunteer work and your community work. You're doing, I don't think there's ever a time when you're not doing something. What would you say to an undecided voter?
I would say that you need to look at the level of experience, the level of different types of things that each of the candidates have been involved with in this city to get an idea of how they're connected with all the different things that have to go on in city council. Certainly, it's important to be attentive to business and to development and that sort of thing, but this is a city that we need to live in. We need to be accepting of and supportive of the arts. We need to be accepting and supportive of our natural and recreational areas. We need to be accepting and supportive of our neighborhoods and the safety of our streets and the cleanliness and the litter. And so you need somebody who can have a broad focus throughout the community and have a lot of people they can call on to help them make decisions. I don't have all the answers, but I know people who have answers, and most of them talk to me and like me.
Bless you, Rick. That's wonderful. What can we do to bring better jobs to this town?
Well, have a better economy, I guess, is the quick answer, and it is turning around. But I think I referenced being supportive of our arts and recreational areas. I really do think that some people argue it's a chicken and the egg thing. You get a lot of companies here with a lot of money and a big tax base, then you can build parks and stuff like that. But I think you need to be real proactive in making the town nice and making it an attractive place to bring people in. So I would probably be a little bit more proactive with the quality of life types of issues. We have a wonderful magnet here, and we have the medical center that has grown by leaps and bounds.
Right.
And in this time of biomedical research, we have a great background here in pharmaceutical manufacturing. Right. We have wonderful resources and a great water supply and a good utility base here. So we have the ingredients we need to bring the companies here. So we need to make sure that we have the city that they want their employees to live in. And of course, we need to have the workforce. And again, we've got the university, we've got the community college. We've got to be very supportive of our public school system because it starts in preschool to get these people workforce ready.
Rick, one of the hot issues that has been popping around for quite some time now, several months, and it's come up in this campaign, is this the overturning of the 3 unrelated rule. I think right now, of course, in District 5, I am in District 5, we would not be affected.
Correct.
But is that a quality of life issue?
I think it is a quality of life issue. I think it's an issue of people being able to improve their neighborhood and derive the most benefit from their property taxes that they pay in, to make sure that their properties are attractive and in an area where the crime litter is down and that sort of thing. We're going to have students here. We're going to have renters here. I was a renter in the Tar River neighborhood when I moved here. I lived there for 4 years in 2 different houses, and I appreciated there were people who'd been there for many years and were homeowners and were very lovely people, and I'd play in their volleyball games and go to their barbecues and stuff like that. And I think if I had an issue that I felt had to do with the quality of life living in that neighborhood, I could certainly talk to those folks about it, and they would get together, and they were the people who lived here a long time and knew who to talk to. but making it more of an area where people don't have a long time connection with it,
Right.
Does detract from the people who are long time people,
Right.
who are committed to that area, and whose livelihood.
Who make it their home.
Yeah, it's their home.
Yeah.
It's
I certainly agree with that, and I have been at some point a resident of that area at one point in my life for a fairly long time, back when I was in high school, and recognized even then, which was a very long time ago, that there was a controversy.
Well, I remember when we passed the Rule 4-3.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's been since I've moved here.
Yeah,
and I thought it was a good rule.
25, 30 years
I
ago.
thought it was a good
Yeah.
rule at the time, having just recently been a resident there.
Right. I want to share a story with you and get your reaction to it. When I moved here, we became members of a church, and we're still members of that church. And I was concerned that we weren't doing a lot, that we weren't very involved in the community. Well, you know how I am. I'm just like you. And I was also concerned that people didn't seem to come very much, and was sort of a thin attendance, and it just was a lack of interest in perhaps what one might call the social ministry of the church and that kind of thing. And so the pastor came over to see us, and we hadn't been living here but 6 or 8 months. And I said, I just would like to see a little more life and a little more participation in this community, and getting to know our neighbors, all of our neighbors, including the ones we wouldn't normally know. And he said, you know, Greenville's just not like that. He said, Greenville's a town where people like to get away and leave on the weekend. It's not a town where people want to stay. And it's not a town where people want to get involved like that. And I remember how upset I was. I told him, of course, he's a lovely gentleman. I told him at the time that I was upset about it. Kind of made it my business to, in my own personal way, work on it, as you and I have done together. But it seems to me that's the kind of attitude that makes us not a livable community. It makes us a community where people do want to get out if they can, and those who can't are stuck.
Well, we do have lovely recreational areas. You can go to the beach, or you can
Yeah.
go to the mountains on the weekend, and certainly a lot of people do that sort of thing. But again, we have our own natural areas here. We have the city has changed so much in those 30 years. We used to go to Raleigh to go shopping on weekends.
Oh, we did too.
And it was a 2.5,
We
3 hour
went to Rocky
drive.
Mount, you know.
But now we have these wonderful things, and we actually, that's probably a problem I should discuss. We act, putting on my Chamber of Commerce hat from a few years ago, this community acts as the base for probably half again its population. We have
Right.
people coming from all the surrounding communities and rural areas to do their shopping, and to go to our medical center, and to go to our medical offices, and to go to our restaurants,
eat in
and
our
get their
restaurants.
entertainment,
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
the movies, that sort of thing. And on any given day, our town of 80,000 people has 120,000 or 125,000 people driving around in it.
Right.
On our NASCAR-like street. And so we really need to be designing and thinking about our infrastructure in terms of a town that's much larger than we are, and we're growing. So if right now we're planning for something, we need to be planning for 150,000 people, because we're acting like a town of 120,
Yes.
even though we're 80.
Yes.
And so that makes a big difference in how you think about your roads. When we widened Evans Street going down to where I live,
Right.
it was already on the transportation plan for being a 4-lane road, possibly divided. We widened it from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. Every morning now, you can sit in traffic there for 2 miles, and this was years ago. It was already, so we need
is
to
a
be
god-awful
proactive and
street.
thinking forward as we do that. And of course, some of that is cooperating with the state. A lot of our
Right.
larger roads are state-maintained roads, and we need to work hard with them. And we realize that the state transportation budget is changing a lot, and they're concentrating on the central parts of this state and leaving the outside edges to fend for ourselves.
That seems to be a historic
So-
problem, but it's suddenly gotten considerably worse again.
It
hasn't
has, and so those of us on the council need to be mindful of that. And I don't have all the answers, but I know those are things we need to work on.
Thank you. Rick, we got about 5 minutes. What are the top 2 or 3 issues facing the city right now?
Well, certainly crime is always a very important issue. It's generally the top of the list for everybody. There's some argument whether its perception is worse than it actually is. It doesn't really matter whether
it sure doesn't, because it's still bad.
And a lot of there are lots of different kinds of crime we need to concentrate on. But I think something that we could target is the gang crime, and that's something that's a group effort. And I know that we're already, our police chief is wonderful. Our sheriff
is a wonderful
wonderful
guy, sheriff too.
And they're collaborating together. We need to collaborate with every municipality and the county in Pitt County and just say, gangs are not welcome in Pitt County. Now, of course, there are social issues that we need to deal with those folks in different ways, and you and I are sensitive to that. But that's one thing. I mentioned the traffic congestion, and really we need to better manage our traffic flow. I honestly think if our roads are not quite supportive of the traffic we have, we may need to revisit speed limits, and we may need to revisit our traffic signals, and maybe even go back looking at the video cameras on some of these signals. When I'm going through a yellow light, I don't go through red lights, but when I'm going through the middle of a yellow light and I say, well, I'm the last one through, and 2 and maybe 3 cars go through behind me, and one of them's a trailer that has lawn equipment on it, do
you always look? I always do that. When I'm the last one through, I always look back and think, I wonder how many will try to get through this time. And there'll always be at least 2.
But yeah, and I realize the police can't be everywhere, but clearly there's a lot of that goes on that we need to make it safer. As well as, again, they're state-maintained roads, but I've really been anxious to get our sidewalk system completed, and there are a lot of crosswalks at major intersections or major intersections that don't have crosswalks. There's no way of building them there. We got to get the state to do it for us. But people do walk, and some people are forced to walk. And I see I see young ladies with baby strollers going from neighborhoods to the grocery store on busy streets with no sidewalk. So
doesn't that scare you?
So transportation, I guess, is important, whether it's pedestrian or traffic, that sort of thing. And of course, then the economic development issues. We've had a good economic development office for a long time, and we've recently started one in the city as well as the county that was here. And we have a regional development office. We have great things going on here that will bring people here.
Right.
We just need to continue to make them better. And like I say, not be taking credit for what's going on right now because people planned that 10 years ago, but be thinking in terms of what we can plan for 20 years down the line.
Yeah, 20 years down the line. I'm figuring I'll not be quite as old as Earl Trevathan is now, but I'm hoping I'll still be around. You're a little younger than I. Tell me, let's close with this. Tell me name 2 or 3 contributions that you'll bring to the City Council in District 5, Rick.
Well, I hope one of them would be what you referenced earlier, is civility. And I don't want to be critical about what is going on, but I am a pretty polite person who wants to listen to people and wants to know both sides of all issues before I give a vote. So I guess that hard work. I'm used to getting up early in the morning and doing a lot of work and having a lot of paperwork to do behind it.
Do you?
And then going and so but when I have something to do, I take it seriously and I do my homework on it. I will read the reports. I will try to read the reports. I still haven't read all of the Affordable Care Act, although I did print it off, but it's too heavy. But I guess that and just reaching out to all the people in the community.
Yeah, I see you reaching out, and I know that you will bring additional civility no matter what the situation. Rick, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful interview, and it's a great opportunity for the 2 of us to chat, which we hardly ever get to do.
You don't get to do it much.
Thank you.
I have a harmonica in the car.
Oh, do you? Well, it's hot outside. We'd have to be able to play.
There you go.
Now I've indicated that it's the daytime when we're taping this. I'm not supposed to let on what time of day it is or anything else since it airs at variable times. This has been an interview with Rick Croskery, my good friend, a candidate for District 5 City Council. Thank you very much.